Hello, and welcome to our show for the love of animals. We have a very unusual and good show for you today, so stay tuned. I'm Darleen Pigford.
And I'm Greg Baur, and we want to tell our viewers of a couple of upcoming shows. One on a new organization in the area called Paws and Claws. And I think you'll enjoy hearing about them and some of the great work that they're doing. And also one on service animals, service dogs, guide dogs, that whole realm of things, and that's another show that I think we'll really find interesting. So
can't
keep
wait
an eye
for
out
those
for that.
also.
Yes. But anyway, Darleen, now you've whetted our appetite. So what's going on today that's so unusual?
Well, we're going to be talking about the patron saint of animals.
Okay.
I didn't even know such a thing existed.
Okay.
But I found out that we do have patron saint of cats and dogs and animals.
Okay.
And we're going to be talking about that and the blessing of the animals.
Okay.
Please introduce our guest.
I certainly will. I'm be glad to. Down at the other end of the table there is Reverend Ellen Ekevag, and she holds many hats. Among them is she's assistant rector at Grace Episcopal Church here in Paducah. And Ellen, thank you so much for taking time out from your busy schedule to be with us today.
It's my pleasure.
Thanks
Happy
for
to be
coming.
here.
Yeah. So I guess we get started.
Well, you also wear some other hats in other Paducah towns. Tell us about that.
Well, yes, I actually serve 3 churches. So I'm the assistant at Grace Episcopal Church, the vicar, which means I'm the priest in charge, at 2 small churches, Trinity Episcopal Church in Fulton and St. Paul's Episcopal Church in Hickman, Kentucky.
Oh, boy. So you are on the road quite a bit.
I am on the road.
And you also do a pub theology?
Yes, part of my ministry at Grace is I have a group of young adults and others who meet every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Right now we're meeting at Pizza by the Pound. And we just discuss theological topics in an open forum.
Oh, wow. Talk about a busy person.
Yeah.
Well, you're going to help us talk about patron saints.
That's right.
Okay. What is a patron saint?
So a patron saint is a person who has been chosen to pray for specific kinds of people or special circumstances.
Okay.
So, for example, I believe it's St. Lawrence. He was martyred by, they put him on a spit and they turned him. And he's said to have said, "I'm done on this side, turn me over, I'm done on this side." And through that, he became the patron saint of cooks.
Oh my God.
So there's all these kinds of apocryphal stories about these people who lived, anywhere from the first, second, third century onward, that kind of connects them with certain kinds of people, professions, animals.
That's what. Okay. Tell us. I didn't know there was a patron saint for cats.
Yes.
So tell me about the cat.
Yes, here is the patron saint of cat. This is my little figurine
that
I picked up. And it's Saint Gertrude. She is a Flemish saint. She lived around the 600s. Her father died, and her mother opened up a monastery where she was the abbess. She was the sister in charge. And she has said to show travelers hospitality. She became someone who represented sort of the radical, hospitable nature of God. And she's the patron saint of lots of things. One of the things is travelers, but she's also the patron saint of cats. And the reason why is that they had a well that was there at the monastery and or the convent. And at the well, it's said to have repelled mice and other rodents. And so she became the patron saint of cats.
I can well understand that.
Yes.
So in common pictures of her today, she's pictured how?
Well, sometimes like with cats around her, oftentimes she has rodents around her who are running up her pole or running away. It just depends on the artist's interpretation. But yeah, this is really what she has become known for.
Okay, and she lived in the 600s?
She lived in the 600s. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Well, now, and it's probably also interesting to note, and I know we'll get more into this, but most of the patron saints are associated somehow with the Catholic Church, aren't they?
Well, yes, that's how patron saints come to be. It's through Catholics have a whole way of doing that, which I'm probably not the person to have expertise in that area.
But the point is, though, that all the churches then take from that.
Take from
Yes,
that.
I mean,
right.
saints are basically what a saint is a holy person.
Okay.
And so this is the particular way we have saints in the Episcopal Church, just holy women, holy men, who we lift up as examples of a Christian life.
Okay. Okay. So we have a patron saint for cats.
Yes.
Now understand we have many patron saint for dogs.
We do.
Tell us about that.
I guess dogs are more likable in the saint world.
Well, I don't know.
know. I mean, I'm a cat lover myself.
Me
too. But yeah, we do. And
we could you had
He
his
perked
attention.
up.
He perked up when you said that.
he's like, I agree. And one of the main patron saints of dogs is Hubert. He was a French bishop in the 8th century.
Okay.
And his conversion story is very interesting. I guess he was pagan before, and it said that he was hunting a stag. And so he's hunting and he's following after the stag, and the stag turns around, and in between the antlers is the cross.
Okay.
And that was Hubert's moment of conversion. And he became the patron saint of dogs because it was said that after his death at his burial site, people who would come and ask prayers from him were cured of rabies.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
And so that is how he became the patron saint of dogs.
Okay. Can you mention the other patron saints of dogs?
I don't remember.
ROCA?
Oh, yeah, ROCA, Rock.
Rock is one.
Saint Rock.
Yeah. Where I first saw this, I was in Seglinski, the veterinarian's office, and on his wall are two beautiful charcoal drawings. And I said, what is this? And it turned out to be the patron saint of cats and the patron saint of dogs.
Yeah.
So that's where I learned
Oh,
about.
that's wonderful.
So
yeah.
I learned about these things, and that's what led to this show.
Oh,
So-
great.
Well, it turns out that there's a lot of other animals that have patron saints. What are some of those?
Yeah, I mean, well, the saints, it really just depends. I mean, really, all the animals are seen as Saint Francis
Right.
is the main patron saint. I mean,
For animals.
he covers the thing. But if you go online and just search patron saint of your animal, it is likely to, and there's usually not just one.
Right.
There's usually quite a few. And usually there's some kind of story that goes along with how that person became a saint of that specific
So
animal.
like for birds?
Right,
and
there's
yeah.
for birds and horses
wild
and
animals.
geese, wild animals, domestic. There's even a patron saint for zoos.
Okay.
Yes.
So all kinds of saints for the animals.
Yeah.
Well, why don't we take a break now, and we're going to talk about Ellen's fur family, and she has a cat named Tigger. So listen up.
I think you'll enjoy this tale.
Hi, my name is Tigger, and I'm a male dark brown tabby cat. I guess that I'm about 8 years old. I don't remember much about my early life, but it probably wasn't much fun. I wound up in a shelter in Washington, D.C., where Ellen and Pear found me. I was in a cage, and I had a sign around my neck. It said who I was, listed all my wonderful characteristics, of course. There were many. The shelter people would never lie. And said that I need a good home. Well, Ellen and Pear must have believed that they read, and of course I was on my best behavior. It worked out, and now I have a wonderful, loving home here in Paducah. I think that I really have it made with Ellen and Pear. Not bad for a street cat from D.C. I know that I'm lazy and love to have my belly scratched. The bedroom is my domain, and I get to sleep between Ellen and Pear. Thank you, Ellen and Pear, for my happy home. Folks, there are lots of other wonderful cats like me that need a wonderful home, so please help all that you can.
We hope you enjoyed that happy tale. Wicked sure did.
Oh, yes.
So just to reiterate a little bit, of course, our guest today is Ellen Ekevag, and that was her cat on there. And why don't you tell us a little bit about how you and your husband, Pear, found Tigger and the street cat in D.C.
That's right. Well, Pear and I, it's a interesting name, P-E-R. It's Peter.
Okay.
It's the Swedish version
Oh.
of Peter. So St. Peter is Saint Per in Sweden.
Okay.
And we met in Germany when I was studying theology there. And we went to seminary in Washington, D.C. And I had spent the summer being the chaplain at Children's National Hospital
Okay.
there. And after that experience, I grew up with a cat, and I've always loved cats. And Per never had a pet. And so we went to our local shelter in Alexandria, Virginia. And Tigger had been there for some time.
Oh.
And so, but Per had an immediate connection. Per is very good with cats.
Oh, is he?
He's like a cat whisperer, if there's such a thing.
Oh,
But,
really?
Yeah, I mean, cats are just drawn to him. It's really interesting. So,
Well, we're going to have him over.
yes,
'Cause we let him.
you have cats,
Right, we
Yes.
have cats.
we found Tigger and brought him home, and he's just been such a joy, very low key cat, and he doesn't like to really cuddle, some cats
Right.
get on you. He just likes to sit next to you. So he's got his little personality and things that he likes. So.
Yeah. And thank you so much for taking an older
Oh,
cat.
yeah.
You know, our animals are not throwaways, and you know, if you were 5 or close to 40 years old as a human being, you would want to be uprooted and changed.
No,
So
no.
anyway,
Well, this afternoon we're talking about patron saints. That's our main topic, and
Right.
and one of the ones that you mentioned in the first segment briefly, but let's look a little more in detail because Saint Francis of Assisi is probably the most famous
Yes.
of the patron saints. And
Saint
tell us
Francis
about
of
him.
Assisi is wonderful. From my memory, his story is that he grew up in a very wealthy household. He read the Gospels, and he decided he actually wanted to live as Jesus lived. And so he denied all of wealth and possessions, took the clothes of a beggar, and he formed the Franciscans, which became his community. And so he and his brothers would travel around and preach, and he was said to have a special connection with animals.
Okay.
St. Francis was. And so there's several stories about St. Francis interacting with animals.
okay.
So one is that he was traveling with his brothers, and he saw all these birds, of all these variety of birds. And so he thought, he thought he was going to walk up to them and they would fly away. Well, he walks up to them, the birds don't fly away, and so he thinks, well, maybe they want to hear the good news. And so he begins to preach to the birds. And all the birds began to stretch their necks, and he saw them sort of, worshiping in the way that birds worship. And it said that, he kind of blessed them as he walked through them. And so he always made it a habit at times when he was walking along to stop to preach at the birds.
Oh my goodness. And the birds listened.
And the birds actually listen. That's what we're told.
Okay, that's the story. Okay.
There's other little stories about how a rabbit, there was a rabbit who was, annoying the garden. There was some kind of turmoil happening. But St. Francis took the rabbit and took him, outside and said, okay, you're free. But the rabbit would never leave him. The rabbit would just keep following St. Francis around.
Oh my goodness.
So that's another one of their kind of funny stories. And one of the ones that I didn't know about was that, and I found this out, we're told that fish were also known to obey Francis.
Okay.
Oh my
That whenever a fish was caught and Francis was nearby, he would return the fish to the water, warning it not to be caught again. And on several occasions, it said that the fish would linger a while near the boat, listening to Francis preach, until he gave them permission to leave, basically a dismissal, if you will. And they would swim off. So in works of art, you always see St. Francis just surrounded by all the different creatures of God.
And he dates to about what time?
Oh gosh, I wish I
1200s, I believe?
He died
Early
in
12
1226.
Okay, yeah.
I was thinking it was in the 12th or
Yeah.
13th century.
So he was much later than St. Gertrude.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And
He was what, Italian?
yes, Assisi, it's a little town in Italy, and
Okay.
you can still go there.
Oh, really?
And go to the monastery. And Giotto, who's a very famous artist, painted all these pictures of St. Francis and his life. And the Franciscans are still there. And it's just a lovely countryside, still kind of, there's no big town still surrounding it. It's really lovely.
Yeah, when I was researching this, he did come from a very wealthy family that owned, I guess, they were merchants. And he took the poverty and not owning land.
Yes.
And apparently with the church at that time, that was unheard of.
Oh, yeah.
How do you support brothers and sisters, in monasteries, if you don't have land?
Right.
And so that was one of his principles.
Yeah, I mean, remember when, not to get too much into this, but, when Jesus sends his disciples out, he says, you're to take only one belt, one cloak. He says, don't take anything more than you need.
Travel light.
And so St. Francis said, well, let's actually do that. I mean, if that's what Jesus said, let's try to live that out. And so it was for a very long time before they had, the building and the structure. They really were traveling around depending on strangers to meet their needs and to be provided for.
Oh, wow.
So.
Isn't he also responsible for that famous Lord, make me an instrument of thy peace?
That is the prayer attributed to him.
Attributed to him, right? Yeah.
It's a beautiful prayer about, let me not so much be consoled, let me not so much be consoled, but to console.
Help me to not be understand, but to understand. Right?
Yeah.
Things like that. It's a very and he has some other writings that where he addresses what is it? Sister Moon or Brother Sun?
Yeah, Brother Sun, Sister Moon. So he very much is in touch with sort of God's created world.
Yeah, nature.
Right. And seeing that God reveals, His love and grace in the creative world.
Through nature and animals.
And animals, yeah.
Right, yeah.
In fact, one of the most interesting stories about St. Francis is how he turned an animal. And apparently there was a little village in Italy where there was a wolf, a very angry wolf. And he went around and he scared people and growled at people and was causing all kinds of havoc. And the townspeople didn't know what to do. And so St. Francis saunters in and they say, there's this terrible wolf. He's just causing major havoc. And so the townspeople and him go, and the townspeople get so scared they don't even go the rest of the way. They kind of send St. Francis out there by himself. And it said that, the wolf sees him and that the wolf goes to jump and he has this fangs. And, I mean, very scary scene. And that St. Francis makes the sign of the cross in front of him. And this wolf becomes docile. And St. Francis tells him, can we just forgive one another? We haven't been treating you very well, and you haven't been treating us. All is forgiven. And then it said that the wolf lived among the townspeople for the rest of its life.
Oh my goodness!
These are just fascinating.
What do you
stories.
think about that, Wicket? Interesting. I can see why he would be the patron saint of animals. And as I understand it, in 1979, it was also the patron saint of ecology.
Yes.
So his, has been recognized now in being good stewards of the earth. So.
Absolutely.
Wow, that's an interesting.
Well, I think it's time we need to take a little short break for another happy tale. And this one I think you'll find very interesting in the sense that you as the viewers can give us some real help on this one. Two cute little puppies, and they're not real little as I guess, maybe 20, 25 pounds each, but they do need homes, so give a listen.
Hi, I'm Chip, and this is my sister Cookie. We're about 5 months old and are dark brown and of the Heinz 57 variety. If you look at us, you'll probably see some of the hound mix. We both weigh about 25 pounds and are very loving. Creatures great and small rescued us from a shelter just before we were going to be put down. Ooh, we really need a happy forever home. It would be just perfect if we could be adopted together. Please call Judy at 270-554-2616 if you can help. We hope to hear from you soon, and you won't be disappointed.
Welcome back. We hope you enjoyed that happy tale about those two sweet little puppies, and if you can help Judy would sure like to hear from you, and so would the little puppies also. So.
Oh, yeah, they'd love to have a home.
Well, we're talking this afternoon with Reverend Ellen Ekevag, and we're talking about patron saints for animals. And we've covered some of the usual animals so far. There's one for dogs, there's one for cats, and there's one for birds, and all kinds of things. What are some of the more unusual ones?
Well, there's one for cows.
Okay.
Saint Perpetua and Saint Bridget of Ireland. Now, it's interesting that Saint Perpetua is the saint of cows because she was a very early saint in the 1st century. She was a woman.
Oh.
And she was martyred when, of course, this is before Christianity became the religion. And she was pregnant, actually, when she was put into prison, and they sent them into the Colosseum to fight wild animals. And she fought with some kind of bull or something. And,
oh, wow.
But she has become, because of her interaction with the wild animals in the Colosseum, become the patron saint of cows.
Oh, wow.
So that's really interesting. And if you ever get a dog bite and there's a patron saint you can pray to, which is Saint Eubald. And really, if you can Google an animal, you will find the patron saint. We've got one for doves, which is Saint David of Wales, and geese, and horse riders, which is Saint Martin of Tours, who rode around on his horse. Swans, whales, Brendan the Voyager, he was out on sea, and so of course he would be the patron saint of Wales. And then always, again, Saint Francis of Assisi is really the patron saint of animals, which is why we have the blessing of the animals on his feast day, which is usually around October 4th.
Okay.
Well, tell us a little bit about what's involved in the blessing of the animals. I know a lot of our viewers have heard of it, but maybe don't know that much about it.
So on the day, and it's usually scheduled sometime around October 4th, people are invited to bring, their pets, dogs, cats.
To church?
To church. It's often outside, but sometimes it's inside if it rains, and that's okay. And, if you don't want to bring your pet, like my Tigger cannot leave the house. He would just be very distressed by that whole situation. But I could bring a picture of Tigger if you've had an animal that's passed away, but you want prayers for that animal, or just, you want
to recognize the importance of that animal.
Yeah, you want to recognize the importance of that animal and what they gave you.
Right.
You can also bring a picture. I've had people bring lizards, and someone brought their hamster last year. And what's really interesting is trying not, for all the animals to interact. But what's interesting is that usually everyone's pretty well behaved.
Really?
I don't know if they know they're at church. I'm not sure, but they usually manage to make it through. And so we have prayers, and it's basically a day of saying thank you for being in our lives. Thank you, God, for creating these animals to companion with us. And really rejoicing in all the joy that they give us, and
companionship,
and just in that relationship between a pet and owner,
And that can also take place for animals that are deceased too.
That's right, correct.
Okay.
And so everyone just kind of gathers around. It's very casual. It's very casual, and there's some, maybe some prayers are said. There's no sermon or anything. And then if you like, you don't have to, but if you'd like, you can bring your pet forward, and the priest will bless your pet.
Okay.
And usually, everyone has their own style of how to do this.
Oh, okay.
I personally, usually pets don't like it if you have a hand that comes towards them. So I like to sort of, if I can, pet the animal. And basically we just say a prayer of thanksgiving. It's, bless this animal, and, thank you for this animal's life, and, thank you for giving this animal an owner that cares and loves for it. And so it's not only a blessing for the animal, but for those who also love their
and
pets.
take care of the animals.
Yeah.
Okay.
So.
And this particular ceremony, I guess, is not really the right word, but the
Gathering.
Gathering, that's the best word. Does take place here in Paducah at Grace Episcopal Church, as you mentioned, sometime early in October. And people from all faiths, though, can come,
Oh,
can't
absolutely.
they? It's not just for
This is not an
Episcopalians.
Episcopalian.
It is not, no. I mean, and because, we just honor St. Francis and the example that he set. We just welcome the whole community, that if you want to come and bring your pet, you're welcome to do that. I do a blessing of the animals also in Fulton.
Okay.
And often I have some people from the shelter who bring animals.
Yes.
And we bless them and again pray for them to be with the owners that God
Right.
would call them to be with. And so it's just really a time to just kind of celebrate, just everything that our animals give to us.
Right. And if I were to bring a cat, you probably would want me to bring the cat in a cat carrier.
Yes, unless your cat is like
Very laid back, but you still.
I would bring a cat carrier just in case. Now, there is someone in Fulton who just carries their cat, but this cat is like totally undisturbed by anything. I mean, it's amazing to watch. So.
And dogs should be on a leash.
Yes, dogs need to be on the leash, and dogs are actually, the first blessing of animals I ever did, a dog actually peed on me. So it's, there's grace. The dogs are allowed to be dogs, and the cats are allowed to be cats.
And you can go more than one time. I think Wicket's been to what, 4?
Something
He's
like
been
that.
blessed 4 times.
Yes. It's never a bad thing.
Right. And so this is an informal gathering. Usually people are outside in a circle.
Sure, in jeans.
In jeans, very informal. It lasts maybe, 30 minutes?
At most.
At most. So
That's with everybody, all the pets being blessed individually, and usually there's, some kind of coffee or some kind of
refreshments.
and a little fellowship.
Yeah, and when pet lovers get together, that's just how it is. I know, Greg. I can't believe it. We're almost out of
Oh,
time.
I'll tell you, when you're talking about such interesting topics and have
yes.
such interesting and wonderful guests like this, it just goes unbelievably fast.
Thank you
And,
for having me.
well, Ellen, we
Thank
really
you
appreciate
so much
it.
for telling us about patron saints and the blessing of the animal. That's been a true blessing for us.
It sure
So,
has. And so
in closing,
I'm Greg,
I'm Darlene.
and we want to remind our viewers, as we always do, give your pet a little extra love today
And every day.
See you next time.
Bye.